Could raise your hand so that the citizens can see who you are. If we have time afterwards, you can not only talk to the mayoral candidates, but also the other candidates as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening, Janice Patterson. Janice Patterson has served as president of the League of Women Voters of Ohio and as president of the League of Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and of Cuyahoga County. Now retired, Janice's professional career included serving as assistant dean for administration at the Maxine Goodman Levine College of Urban Affairs at Cleveland State University, as business operations director and training director for Lake Erie Girl Scout Council of Cleveland, and she has a bachelor's degree from Kansas State University and a master's degree from the Pennsylvania State University. Janice. Also, before Janice comes up, there is literature for the candidates to the left. There's also a voter registration table. And this year, you will not be receiving vote by mail applications. You have to ask for it from the elections, and those forms are over there as well as information about the league. Okay, come on up, Janice.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen. We have rules. It's a league forum. We have rules for the audience. We have rules for the candidates. The audience, one of them is turn off your cell phones or put them on to silent. We ask that you refrain from expression while we're having it. It just slows down the number of questions that we can ask if we have to wait for clapping or in those kinds of activities. We will do written questions from the audience, and you should already have cards around, and we have league members on the edges who are going to give you more cards if you need more. Short, succinct questions are very good, not whole dissertations. The questions will be screened by a league group. We're looking for a broad range of questions, and we know that some of it, we're going to get a lot of the same questions, and that's a highlight. They will signal to me this is a very important. And we want to have a good variety, because mayor candidates have many varieties of topics that they have to think about all at once. So give them your questions, and it will be my job to decide how many candidates answer each question, and I have a rather elaborate tool up here to help me with it, which probably will fall apart if all the candidates don't show up. So we'll see how that goes. For the candidates, we have determined your order of speaking by a drawing, and so far number 1 isn't here, so that probably means we'll start with number 2, go numerically, and that's the order. We'll stay in that order for all the opening statements, and then we'll reverse it for closing statements. Candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and you'll have 1 minute when we get to the closing statements. We have timers. They're sitting here in the front row, and show them your cards. They have a 30-second warning, they have a 15-second warning, and they have a famous red stop sign. When we get to the question sessions, I have this random list. Not all candidates will answer all questions. We've done this for many a year, and we know when we have a lot of candidates in a forum, we need a little bit more variety and a little less repetition in the angles. But they're going to be around at the end of the forum, so if your particular question didn't get there, find them. And they're going to be around the city a lot in the next couple of weeks, so you should get your questions answered somewhere or another. We really will do strict timing, even if we have a little change here in the number of candidates. I think we'll still, and we've made every effort to give every candidate the same length of time to answer questions. We're not allowing any videotaping other than the staff that we have hired to do this, and that will be available on a league website that somebody will tell me about between now and the end of the meeting. I think we are ready to go. So, Mr. Krastowski, opening statement, please. 2 minutes.
You bet. Thank you. I'm Brandon Kostowski, and I founded Edwards Leadership and Restaurant Institute to help formerly incarcerated men and women get employed and stay out of prison. And it's working. Our recidivism rate is below 2%. Nationally, that rate is almost 50%. And we have almost over 40 employers waiting to hire our students. So this model works, and it's been adopted across the country in various industries. I started Edwards because I believe that every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future, and that anyone who so desires to change have that opportunity to do so. Now I'm running for mayor to bring this type of change and outlook to the entire city. It is also personal. I'm tired of losing people I love to violence. I'm tired of seeing families grieve, and I'm tired of my wife crying every time she has to recall the murder of her sister in an abandoned house. But I'm really fed up with the lack of urgency I see from this administration when it comes to violent crime. My administration will be different. Over the last 12 years, we have seen a double-digit increase in the poverty rate because of the lack of real opportunity. We have an exploding murder rate that we can't police our way out of. Of course, we have to use our police effectively to stop this gang epidemic, but what we need to offer is real opportunity. We have a growing opioid epidemic, an untenable lead crisis, a failing school system. That's why 56,000 residents have left Cleveland since the mayor has taken office. And I've studied these problems with experts and let the people help form my agenda. Now I'm here to offer something we've been lacking for the last 12 years, solutions. Let's be clear, no other candidate has a plan to build job training centers to help pull people out of poverty. I do. I also have a plan for entrepreneur incubators to give residents a hand in rebuilding their community. And I will implement a model of policing that's tough on gang violence, but offers an alternative way to get out of the streets with job training and wraparound service. We have a chance to change the city. Elect Brandon Kostowski this September 12th. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. Thank you for all being here. This is an important forum. You're an important organization, so thank you. This is my second time running for mayor of Cleveland. 8 years ago, I embarked on this journey to become the mayor. I finished third in that 5-person primary. I had 420 votes for the general election. I learned a lot during that campaign. You know what I learned mostly? Is that I was talking too much 8 years ago. This time I've decided to listen. You know what I'm listening to? Over 15,000 doors that we've knocked on. We plan on knocking on 18,000 for the total campaign. I've been in almost every forum except one. I've made phone calls every day to voters. You know what the voters are telling me? That this mayor, as once again evidence as not being here, is not listening to the voters of Cleveland. They are screaming for safe streets. People are being mowed down by bullets on a day-to-day basis. As a matter of fact, Mayor Jackson today was waving to voters in West Park as criminals were breaking into houses on Rocky River Drive. He's out of touch. He needs to retire. The Kylo administration is putting safe streets first. As a matter of fact, I've reached out to the former mayor of Indianapolis. I'm the only candidate of the 9 that has a proven plan to dramatically reduce crime through something called the 10-point coalition. We will introduce it, and we will eliminate and dramatically reduce violent crime in the streets of Cleveland, because if you don't have that, you do not have a renaissance. Secondly, quality schools. The city of Cleveland has come to a point where, once again, our kids, less than 7 out of 10, are graduating from high school. That, my friends, is a ticket to poverty. As the former director of government and community relations of Breakthrough Schools, I know there's schools right now that we could invest in, and if we did, our kids would get the best. In the Kylo administration, they will. We need more jobs, and we need better city services. I'll close with this. The mayor's had 12 years as the mayor, and prior to that as the council president, to show that we can get to a point where our streets are safe and our schools are exemplary. It's not working. It's time for Mayor Jackson to step aside. It's time for a new leader, and I believe with all of my heart it will be Robert Kylo, and I can't wait to serve you.
Now, we'll forego the clapping, please. Mr. Bell.
As mayor of Cleveland, I will make Cleveland's economy and neighborhoods more vibrant by embarking on a continued pathway to better education and jobs, as well as personal and workforce development. Rather than using the gentrification model to expand the city's tax base, spending tax dollars and offering tax abatements to replace settled residents, I will embrace a personal development model. We have to meet people where they are, striving to bring about improvement by any means necessary. Any candidate or politician coming to the conclusion that they lack the ability to help the poor, the mentally ill, the drug addicted, the undereducated, or the formerly incarcerated should not ask people in those categories for their votes. Any candidate or politician lacking comprehensive plans to address these issues should not ask people affected by those issues for their votes. To do so is a mockery of the social contract that exists between elected officials and the residents they are elected to serve. Writing people off has never been highlighted as part of any political campaign. It shouldn't highlight their record in office. Ignoring low-income neighborhoods while showering downtown residents with resources, projects, funds, and tax breaks has been a prescription for disaster. After 12 years of following the Downtown First, Downtown Only game plan, Cleveland is ranked as one of the 10 worst cities in the entire nation. In order to turn this once vibrant city around, we need to capitalize on the city's three biggest resources: Lake Erie, its healthcare industry, and its residents. Residents should be trained and hired to address the issues and concerns of the homeless, the mentally ill, children and senior citizens. My name is James Jerome Bell, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Mr. Patman.
Number 5.
Well, we didn't have a number 1.
I almost said something that I will forego this year. Thank you. This is, first of all, I want to thank you and the League of Women Voters for being here, because you could be doing a lot of things, an awful lot of things, other than sitting here trying to figure out who should be the mayor. And I appreciate you for that, because too long have we selected mayors by blue smoke and mirrors, interests of someone else who lives outside of this city. It's time for us to make our own choice. And let me say, given the national temperature that we are all suffering through, this is no time for amateur. This is, I'm going to say it again, it's a serious business, this thing called politics. You make a mistake, somebody dies. You make another mistake, somebody doesn't get to go to college. You make another mistake and somebody can't read. So this is a very serious business. And I offer myself as a serious person to that job. The question is, I could talk for ad item about city council. I have a long list of accomplishments as state representative. I invite you to look at my website or Google me, either one. The question today is, how do we chart the path forward? Right now we have a next-gen 911 system that I sit on the steering committee of, and in fact, it will be rolled out next year. What it does, it turns your cell phone into an official camera. It's the next generation 911. The other thing is that we have to get illegal guns off the street before we can do anything about anything else. And I have a plan for that. And since we are 9, I think now, or 8, and my time is running short, hopefully I'll get at some point and talk to you about my plan for education, economic development, and safety.
I'm off to a great start. While I think there's something wonderful about there not being a number 1, I ended up with 2 number 6s. But Mr. Johnson was here first, so we'll let you be number 6 first, and you can be number 6 next, Mr. Brewer.
First of all, let me thank the League of Women Voters. Let me thank Felton Thomas, who's the executive director, my fraternity brother, to those in the audience who represent the groups that supported me. I see Ronnie Jackson from the Amalgamated Transit, as well as SEIU 1199 and Local 1, as well as the Progressive caucus of Cowley County, I wanted to make sure I've always acknowledged those who have stepped up and those who are out there working every day on my behalf. I'm excited about the next 4 years. I know in the last 48 hours, folks have talked about the doomsday because the Q Arena deal has, at least at this point, fallen short, so the sky is falling. It raises for me what is really what I think people have forgotten. What they've forgotten is that throughout the 34 neighborhoods, there are issues more important than championship, issues that are not directly impacted by the trickle-out theory of give money downtown and hope that it gets into the neighborhoods. There is poverty in the neighborhoods. There is high crime, high violence in the neighborhoods. There are people looking for jobs in the neighborhood. There are businesses looking for people to work. And so the next 4 years requires of us to select leadership that's able to be looking directly at those issues. I want a vibrant downtown. I want to be able to look at the postcard photo of downtown, but I want to be able to say to you that until we deal with 34 neighborhoods, until we are able to bring the quality of life to every one of our citizens so we can stop them from leaving and bring more, until we get there, we're not going to be the great city that everyone thinks we need to be. So let me say simply this: let us talk about the issues tonight. Let us drill down into the weeds if necessary, because I have a plan for these issues, but more importantly, I am a leader that is qualified, energetic, and experienced, and looking forward to being the next mayor of the city of Cleveland. Thank you.
Mr. Brewer.
Hello, everyone. I just listened to Bill's comments about experience. And what we're now selecting is a mayor, not a leader, but the mayor. The mayor under Cleveland's charter is the chief law enforcement officer of the municipal corporation. It's their duty to make sure that all the ordinances are enforced. It's their duty to supervise the administrative affairs of each and every department. The city has currently a $612 million general fund, and the person who is going to be the mayor needs to manage that budget. They need to also be prepared once they take office to get ready for the next 3 months to put together a full year's budget, because in January, council is going to have only 3 months of budgets that they're going to be able to work with, or the mayor will have 3 months of budget. I know these things because I have been a mayor, a special assistant to a mayor, chief of staff to a mayor. I worked at CMHA as the chief of communications and the project planner that wrote the $22 million master plan for the first renovation of King Kennedy South. I've been a journalist who's covered every mayor since Dennis Kucinich, and I shot pool with Carl Stokes. I know that city government and city hall better than anybody else up here. And what you're going to find when you listen to all of us talk tonight is you're going to hear words about leadership and plans and visions and all of this other stuff that have nothing to do with the day-to-day operation of managing the city. The mayor's going to have to negotiate new collective bargaining agreements with all of the 33 different unions. The mayor's going to have to deal with the problems in the water department, the Port Authority, and everything else that's going on in the city. He's going to have to implement a consent decree, and what you're going to hear is that most people here have never read it. They've also not read the 3 U.S. Department of Justice investigation reports that describe the problems that exist in the Cleveland Police Department. And so when you're selecting someone to replace Frank Jackson, a very experienced mayor, an experienced legislator, whether you agree with his way of handling problems or not, you need to replace experience with experience.
Thank you. Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Zachary Reed, and I am a serious candidate to be the next mayor of the city of Cleveland. First of all, I want to thank the league. I want to thank Director Felton Thomas for hosting us here tonight. On this campaign trail, many of us have focused on the shortcomings of the current administration. Tonight, I will focus on my record. Tonight, I will focus on my 28 years of experience in public service. Tonight, I will focus on my accomplishments in Ward 2, in the Mount Pleasant, Union Miles, and Mill Creek Falls neighborhood. I will share with you my plans on how we together will improve the quality of life for the people who live, work, play, and worship in the city of Cleveland. Tonight, I respectfully ask you to vote for me to be your mayor of the city of Cleveland. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kincaid.
Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are having a good evening today, tonight, rather. My name is Cameron Kincaid. A lot of you probably haven't heard of me because I am a write-in candidate for the city of Cleveland. I am I am the youngest candidate, as you can clearly see amongst all the other people that are up here. I am the youngest candidate on the ballot. I don't have serious political experience as the majority of my fellow runners or campaigners or that have, in any case. What I truly do believe is that experience is not the only thing that you truly need to run an effective and successful city. You also need to have the heart, and you need to have the strength to run a city. You have to be able to care for not just one section or portion of people in the city. You have to care for everybody that's here. You know, there are different people here who have different views and opinions, and they have different, very strong opinions, and you have to find a way to be the median person amongst all of those people. And I feel like I am the best candidate to be the median person for all of these people. Myself, I belong to a lot of minority groups. Being the most obvious is that I'm a person of color, so I know exactly what it's like to go through a lot of experiences that a person of color would actually go through. So being in a position of power, I'll be able to help those people who are underdeserved, and not just being a person of color, but I also know personal people who are a part of the LGBT community, who are also part of the Hispanic or Latino community, who are females, you know, just minorities in general. And I feel like I have the necessary experience and expertise to make sure that everybody here gets exactly what they need in the city of Cleveland.
All right, first question. We have a series of questions that have been prepared in advance by league members, and I'm getting loaded with audience questions, and I think everybody needs to realize we're in for another hour and a half of intensity here. The first question. A frequent complaint from Cleveland residents is that too much money is being spent downtown and not enough is being spent in the neighborhoods. So the question is, what would you like to do to lessen or totally eliminate this perception? And the first response, please, Mr. Patman.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question. Because I was around some time ago when we did both. We built Gateway, Brown Stadium, and built more houses than we tore down. And I actually was closely involved, the mayor at the time, in doing that. One of the things you learn when you're down there is that the finance committee and the budget is where the rubber meets the road. If you look at the budget, for instance, I did, and the council budget for the last 5 years, only this year changed, was more than the health budget, the health department budget. So how much do they care about our health if, in fact, the city council's budget is more than the health department's budget? There is a reason for all that. So I sat there at 12 budgets, 3 of which I was in charge of the whole shooting match, and nothing was spent for more than $10,000 at the time unless it passed the finance committee. So I do know Cleveland and know it well.
Mr. Brewer, same question.
Downtown versus neighborhoods. You know, I remember when downtown was pretty much a very seedy place to go. I mean, a lot of us remember the prostitutes on Prospect Avenue, the seedy bookstores that used to exist here, the lack of businesses, and then the fact that, for the most part, downtown was shopping for people in the neighborhoods. And so it's changed over the last 30 years or so and become more of a neighborhood. There are some competing interests. I think it's unfair, for example, that downtown people get to ride the E-Line and D-Line trolleys for free while people in the neighborhoods are paying a regular fare and being charged with fare jumping offenses when they don't have enough money. I think that we have to deal evenly with all of the neighborhoods, but I am going to concentrate on the neighborhoods that are affected by blight by the lack of grocery stores, the lack of shopping and small businesses. I live on Leonard and Heartless Felons territory. There's been 5 homicides on my street. Zach's my councilman, never seen him on the street. And 2 of the homicides have been double. So I'm definitely going to focus on neighborhood development.
Mr. Cousett.
It's about creating opportunity, and that's first and foremost. I believe in creating job training centers, 5 of which are around the city. It would be my first task. In the model of Edwin's, this formula works. Creating opportunity and giving someone a chance with wraparound services allows someone to take where they are to where they want to go. So that's got to be empowerment through our job training centers. Also, entrepreneur incubators. So everyone talks about, well, you know, what are we going to do with our neighborhoods? How are we going to improve our neighborhoods? Well, if we give our residents a hand in solving the problems in their neighborhood, then perhaps we'll be able to solve the problems in our neighborhood. So entrepreneur centers are agencies and buildings that businesses sponsor. They allow for free office space. They allow for mentorship, and it's sometimes funding for someone's idea. So again, focusing on the educational component of this city, because everything that Cleveland needs to be the best is already here. It just needs to be cultivated and grown.
We might come back to this question. I see similar ones already turning up in the ones that you've submitted, but we're going to go to another topic. What investments in the community would you like to make as your public safety strategy? Please start, Mr. Johnson.
In order to deal with crime, you actually have to deal with the social factors that create crime. And if I'm talking fast, I guess this is so it's important that we be able to look at jobs. Jobs, essentially, the economics of a community would ultimately determine what happens within the long-term social realities of the community. You've got to be able to match the jobs that are small business, manufacturing, industrial within the neighborhoods. We cannot create enough jobs downtown. Most jobs are small businesses in the neighborhoods. So you've got to be able to deal with jobs. You've got to be able to deal with education. That's why I want to bring vocational education back to CMSE. You should always create opportunities for young people. You've got to break the cycle of violence by dealing with the social issues. And when it's all said and done, we have to deal with all neighborhoods when it comes to the issues of quality of life and opportunity. An ability for us to be able to achieve those goals will not only reduce crime, but it will bring more folks to our neighborhood and create a better quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bell?
In the efforts to improve our economy and expand our tax base, we're helping the chronically unemployed become productive citizens. It has been the practice of both city and state administrations to focus on an overabundance of resources on rewriting resumes, conducting mock interviews, and offering job fashion advice. While these are important elements of job searching, their results have left much to be desired. Paid training and internships with the cost split between businesses and government would be much more effective and cost efficient to help transition from chronically unemployed into the job force. Under my administration, more financial resources and personal will will be directed to programs like Youth Opportunity Unlimited and Youth Build, offering at-risk teenagers, especially survival avenues that don't include selling legal drugs and illegally sold prescription drugs.
Another new question. What measures will you take to increase city residents' access to jobs in the suburbs? Mr. Kylo.
Well, thanks for all 3 of the questions that just were lobbed out there. Are really important, and they're all consistent in the way I'll answer them. You need a mayor who knows how to lead, and you need a mayor who can cast a vision that attracts resources to everybody in Cleveland, not just a select few. And I continue to hear this narrative all the time about you got to have all this experience in City Hall, blah, blah, blah. You know what you need? You need a leader that gets results. And I'll put my resume of nearly 20 years in the private, public, education, education sector with any of these gentlemen on this stage or the ones that aren't even here. And it speaks of results. Investment comes from vision. Vision comes from accountability. Accountability comes from creating a culture of excellence. You want to get the suburbs in this region invested in the city, make sure the streets are safe, make sure the kids are properly educated, make sure there's workforce development, and make sure you're investing in the best school models, which are already existing. So investment comes from vision. We're going to get this city back to 500,000 residents again in the Kyle administration. We're going to collaborate with other municipalities. We're going to put egos aside and all these eyes and promises, and we're going to get results.
Mr. Reed, same question.
Well, one of the things that I would do as mayor of the city of Cleveland, and I would first focus on public transportation as a whole. I mean, if you're going to get urban individuals to go out to the suburbs, you first have to give them the opportunity to make it to the suburbs. That's why I stood as the leader right outside this door to open up Public Square when this administration closed. I was the only one who stood out there with individuals to continue to say, open up this square. Because I understood from my mom, who raised three boys on her own, that public transportation was very important. So you first got to have someone that's going to be in City Hall that understands that public transportation is very important. So you can't just say how we're going to get them there if you don't have a leader that understands first and foremost, one of the ways that we are going to get them there is public transportation. And I've shown you what I've done as a council person, and I will show you what I will do as mayor of the city of Cleveland.
Same question, Ms. Kincaid, about access to jobs in the suburbs.
So basically with this particular question, as mayor, my main priority would be all 396,000 people here in the city of Cleveland. I'm not concerned about people in Heights, I'm not concerned about people in Parma Heights, I'm not concerned about people in North Randall, my concern is about the people in the city of Cleveland, Ohio. So when you talk about jobs and different things like that, you have to look at the things that people want to do. You know, you can have an open access to fast food restaurant jobs, but as long as people aren't going to be attracted to those jobs, they're not going to work. So you're just going to have this demand for jobs and nobody's going to be going to them. So my main priority is actually getting people into jobs that they actually want. That's not going to be seen as a job or work to them, so they continuously keep going every day and be, cool.
All right, another question. What can the Cleveland mayor do to improve the quality of Cleveland schools? Mr. Christes.
Sure. First and foremost, we'll start investing in students again. We need to really invest in mental health counselors. There's a lot of students that are coming into our schools that are victims of domestic violence or victims of a tough life at home. We need to make sure they can decompress so they're ready to learn. So mentorship. There's a great program called True to You that's been helping mentor 8th graders into 9th. Let's beef up the mentorship. Vocational education, Councilman Johnson mentioned it. I'll echo that. We need to get back to the idea of working with our hands. Not everyone's cut out for college. They're not. So vocational education, we can continue to double down on. It's very important. I also want to talk safety, because when I went to the Friendly Inn for the back to school rally about 2 weeks ago, the number one thing with stickers on it was safety. Students don't feel safe. So they need to feel safe. They need to be encouraged. But most importantly, we got to talk about something. That's K-3 literacy. You'll see in the new state report card that's coming out in about 2 weeks that we've even dropped lower in our K-3 literacy rate. It's unacceptable for the school system to not have reading interventionists in every school that doesn't help allow our kids to read by grade 3. Thank you.
Mr. Beck.
In addition to revamping the school system, it is imperative that we take advantage of lucrative job industries that do not require expensive debt-inducing college degrees. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, systems of education need to be taken into account and celebrating our innate differences. Investing more funds into expanding programs such as Youth Build and Youth Opportunity Unlimited. In doing so, we can provide children of all skill levels and abilities opportunities to become productive citizens. The college or bust approach has been a prescription for disaster, serving the needs of employers seeking to push down wages much more than it serves the need of populace, diverse in their talents and interests.
Another question on the tape. What measures would you consider that would make Cleveland's population grow again? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the chance for Ms. Kincaid to answer the last question. And you, but we've got an odd number of situations here. Not everybody's answering every question. And I have a chart here to try to help you. Okay, thank you. Ms. Kincaid. Go right ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
What I would do would be to change leadership, starting from the top, going to the school board. My first office off was Cleveland Board of Education, 1983. I received 17,300 votes for that seat. I served on the Financial Planning and Supervision Commission that oversees the East Cleveland School District out of fiscal emergency. I know how to read the budget. I know how to make the changes that need to be made in leadership structurally from the top down. And there will be those changes made. I think that this school board combination of mayoral control is an abomination. I think the school board has to go back to the voters. I think we've done a lousy job of letting the mayor control the schools. And I think that the board that we have now is out of touch with the people in this community. I live next to, right up the street over from John Adams. They just built a Senate football league, football field. We didn't get one notice from the board about these night games and day games that are going to be in our neighborhood, which tells me again that this district is out of touch with the people. So I'm definitely going to make some changes from the top down.
Thank you. Let's stay on this question, Ms. Kincaid.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What measures would you consider to make Cleveland's population grow again?
Okay. So, Cleveland is kind of one of the worst cities right now to be represented as a city. It's considered undangerous, it's considered segregated, it's considered one of the places that you wouldn't want to raise one of your families in. And when I say one, I'm talking about, maybe like your kids or your grandkids' kids, or maybe even a vacation spot. So the first thing that you would have to do is you would have to change Cleveland's reputation of being one of the worst cities to possibly live in for anybody. When you think about Cleveland, do you think about how safe it is, or do you think about the things that you could possibly do in the city of Cleveland? People usually think about where to avoid instead of where to go. So I want to make sure that when you come to the city of Cleveland, I want to make sure that you're able to visit all parts of the city and still be safe. I want you to be able to go to Ward 2, Ward 4, wherever place where you want to go to and still be, okay and protected, knowing that you won't have to worry about any harm being done to you or yours.
I think this is an important question. Mr. Patman, would you continue?
Thank you. There are two things that we have to be aware of. First of all, people have to be fair and honest about what's going on in the Cleveland public school system. It's a bureaucracy covering its you-know-what. Third grade guarantee, I voted for it. When I got back home, people said, "Great, Bill, you voted for the third grade guarantee." I said, "I don't think you quite understand it. It means that you are guaranteed not to go to the fourth grade unless you pass the third grade reading guarantee." When I looked at the statistics for the Cleveland public school system this year, 40% of our students failed the third grade reading. 73% of all the people in jail are dropouts. Fastest growing population in the jails are black women. All product of this education divide. So first and foremost, I will have a transparent school system. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
When it comes to schools, you have to focus in on the student and the student performance. You have to look at the environment of not just what happens when a student shows up at the door, but what kind of life and what kind of household that student is coming from. It's about wraparound services. It's been much different than when I graduated from College High School in '76. It's about being able to understand they're coming from poverty. They may be coming from trauma. They're also coming from situations that could be domestic violence. They're hungry, and then in many situations they need to be kept interest. We got rid of arts, we got rid of music. We have to put back into our schools things that turn kids on. And we need to stop teaching to the test. We absolutely have to be able to free up the teachers to be able to learn who they are, to be able to reflect who they are as teachers, and be able to allow students to be who they are using different techniques of teaching, not just sticking to the old ways. So it's about students' performance, and I really believe that if we continue with things like vocational education and the arts, we can turn these students on and graduate these students into a life of quality. Thank you.
Mr. Reed, same question.
Because you had two questions there. Are we on the 500 or are we on the schools?
Schools.
Well, let me tell you, I represent John Adams, which is around the corner from Leonard Craig, and I go there on an ongoing basis, so evidently must have made it to Leonard Craig once or twice as a council person. And then John Adams, there's Bard College. Bard College is an opportunity to get a free college education and get an associate's degree. There are 100 seats in that school right now. Only 30 are filled. You know why? Because of violence and the unsafe conditions. On my phone right now, the recruiter said to me, Councilman, I'm having a hard time recruiting people to come to John Adams because of the violence. So when all these people talk to you about what they're going to do in the schools, until they do what I said first, safety first, it's irrelevant. When someone has an opportunity to get a free college education and they don't go because of the violence, you've got to solve that problem first. And that's why I'm saying to you, as mayor of the city of Cleveland, I am going to put safety first.
Mr. Tyler.
The question about population growth in schools are directly linked. As the former director of government and community relations, I know because I worked on the Cleveland plan. I helped pass the Cleveland plan, and the goal of that plan was to dramatically accelerate the growth of quality seats in the city of Cleveland. The mayor has decided to do it gradually. In the Kylo administration, we will accelerate because kids deserve the best. They're the most important assets of a community. And the fact that less than 7 out of 10 of them are graduating from high school links them right to systemic poverty, and that system of poverty must be obliterated. There are nonprofits and faith-based entities that can work with the district in a much more robust manner to rally around these kids and parents so that they have the literacy skills, the financial skills, and the wherewithal to break out of addictions so that when they get to school, it's a cultivated, atmosphere of excellence. We need to invest in the best. We're trying too hard to turn around schools that have traditionally failed. Invest in what works. You get the schools fixed, population of the city is going to grow.
At this time, I'm going to ask him. Yes.
Okay.
But you already, okay. Sorry.
I graduated the class of 2015, everybody. If you don't know that, that's officially 2 years ago. I'm going to let you know now that what's causing the kids to fail in schools isn't violence. It's not, things that's going on at home. It's a lot of different things that's causing kids to fail. Do you know what it's like to be a 10th grader practicing for an OGT test and still have a 23-year-old in your classroom still trying to pass the OGT test that they should have passed years ago? And they can't pass the test because they're not really good test takers, or the way that their brain works doesn't really match up with the test, or it's some things that's going on at home that's causing them not to be really focused on the school. Or believe it or not, I've even had an incident where I've actually had a whole entire class turn against the teacher because they were teaching us things that we felt like we weren't going to learn. And in truth, it wasn't stuff that we needed to learn. It wasn't things that we were going to carry on with us in the future. It wasn't things that we were going to actually remember later on down the road. Like if you ask me right now, what's unit circle, I would probably sit here and be like, don't know what you're talking about. But that's something that we learned in math. We get taught a lot of different things in school that they feel like we should learn, and they feel like we should carry on with us because they feel like it's going to be used for us to be successful. It's not.
We have an audience question that we will not use the timing for because you have about a 2 or 3 word answer. I think we'll do it. And we'll start at that end and just go right down the row. And the question is, when was the last time you rode an RTA bus, not including the trolley? Mr. Bell.
Yesterday.
Mr. Tyler.
About a month ago.
Mr. Johnson.
About a year ago.
Okay. Mr. Krastowski.
Last week.
Mr. Reed.
About 2 months ago.
Mr. Brewer.
Probably about 30 years.
Mr. Patton.
Okay.
It's been a while, but I sat on the board of RTA, so I do have to understand.
Okay. Ms. Kincaid.
This weekend.
All right. The timers have advised me that the 1 minute thing is too short. So for the next series of questions, we're going to go to 1.5 minutes. Okay?
Oh, wow. Yay.
Okay, I have a question now that I'm absolutely sure I'm going to have everybody answer the same question. It is, where does it go? What is your best idea, I said singular idea, for making the lake and the riverfronts achieve their full potential? Okay, Ms. Kincaid.
The Great Lakes that we have here, I feel like are one of our biggest natural resources that we have. According to some statistics, Lake Erie is the smallest lake out of all the 5 Great Lakes that we have here. This particular Great Lake also powers water to nearby cities and countries and whatnot. So it's very imperative that we protect our water here. I really feel like there are some natural resources that we can take to make sure that our water is continuously clean, and I feel like we can also use our water to actually have hydropower within the city. So natural ways to clean the water can include adding fish or certain sea creatures like algae and different things like that to naturally filter the water out. Like I said, the water that we have here is very important. You all drink it, you all want to swim in it, you all want to do a whole lot of fun things in it, but as of right now, it's really unsafe. But it's imperative that we protect our Great Lakes, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I protect them.
Mr. Krastowski.
Would you mind? I was so flattened by the extra 30 seconds. I didn't catch the question. So what would you do? I was just, this never happened before.
Yeah, we fought for it.
Fought hard. You want to repeat the question?
Yes, I want your best idea for making the lake and the riverfronts achieve their full potential.
Sure. Okay, so the best idea, I believe, for them to make, obtain their fullest potential would be to, I don't have one, I have 2 ideas. First, definitely going with the wind turbines, turning that lake into the largest freshwater wind farm in the United States. This speaks to a lot more reasons than just the development of a lakefront. It speaks to a bigger factor, that's green energy. I believe we're underutilizing our lakes, yes. How can we better utilize them? Use them for the wind. And not only that, is to construct these wind turbines here in Cleveland. We've gotten far away from the idea of how to build things again with our hands. We talk about that, that medical mart, the health tech corridor down on Euclid. And one thing that we forget is, why don't we start manufacturing some of the things that we're being technological with? So I think the wind farm lends itself to two great assets. One, better green energy, and 2, the construction of these parks. And as for a person who would like to enjoy the waterfront and develop it there, I think we have to really look at some of these assets right on our lake. One being that Burke Lakefront Airport, and I know it's a little bit difficult when talking about this and agree with the federal government. However, there is a way to develop that property right there. And what's the sense of developing if we can't keep the lake clean? So this brings to another factor the algal bloom. But my first and foremost idea would be developing that wind farm.
Okay. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. My best idea is to develop the East Lakefront. Plain and simple. It's now a stock of warehouses and rundown buildings. And it is #1 piece of real estate in the United States for developers. We learned that years ago when there was a terrible fight over who was going to do the blocks. It's time to go at that again, starting at Winter Park and working your way all the way down to Bradnock. It is no accident that Bradnock is Bradnock. So why can you travel 400 yards and be someplace you may not want to be? You look at the East Lakefront, you look at Chicago, you look at many other cities, there is huge upside to the East police. When I was in Baltimore, we had land similar to Boynton Park, filled with restaurants and shops that poked out into the sound, and it was a money maker. It was a people draw, and we can do that here, especially with 56,000 people working in University Circle and driving straight out of Cleveland each and every night.
Mr. Reed?
As mayor of the city of Cleveland, the one thing that I would do is I would be talking with the gubernatorial candidates right now to have a conversation with them. Say the city of Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, gives you the most revenue that goes to Columbus. We got the most votes that go to Columbus, and yet we don't have one of the Ohio state government agencies here of a big factor besides the lottery. Why, if you want to do something to the lakefront, why don't you bring the Ohio Natural Resources Department to the lakefront and bring those 2,000 jobs that are in Columbus to the lakefront? The Department of Natural Resources is in Columbus. We've got Lake Erie. We've got the largest natural water base here in Cleveland, Ohio. So if you want to do something to the lakefront, you want people to pay attention to the lakefront, you bring those 2,000 jobs. See, people, this is about economic development. These are about putting people to work. When they tell you about poverty, the best way, one of the quickest ways to get us out of poverty is to create jobs. There are 2,000 jobs in the Ohio Department of Natural Resources in Columbus. We should be talking to both the Democrats or the Republicans who are running for governor and say, you know what, we're tired of sending our money down there, we're tired of sending our votes down there, and we get little or nothing in return. As the mayor of the city of Cleveland, I'm going to say to them, I want those jobs here in Cleveland so we can put our people back to work.
Mr. Kylo?
As someone who's been a leader of the business and nonprofit world, I believe it starts with SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and time-bound. I'm 42 years old, and we've elected the same people over and over again, the mayor, the council, the legislature, and we still do not have a developed lakefront. It's not going to happen, otherwise it would have. It starts with having it as a priority. It's pretty simple. In the Kylo administration, we're going to leverage the assets of the city of Cleveland. This city loves sports, this city loves entertainment, this city loves food. Get them to the lake. Develop world-class athletic fields. Bring back the Euclid Beach experience where people, as families, as citizens of Cleveland, can come be entertained in healthy ways instead of always going to clubs. How about that? And how about making sure that the real estate that the city of Cleveland owns is put in the hands of people who will develop it with speed? It's about getting stuff done now. Theories and processes and all that, we've been talking about this for a long time, and the lake is still there, and it's still not developed. You need a leader who's going to have it as a priority. It was when I ran 8 years ago. It is again now, so I appreciate the question. You leverage the real estate, you leverage the assets of the city of Cleveland, you roll up your sleeves, and you stop making excuses, and you get it done.
Mr. Johnson?
The one idea, other than, like Brandon said, the wind farm and clean energy, the one idea is in my ward. First Energy just is demolishing its old plant. Even though I supported another use for it, it's now going to be land. Now I'm looking at the idea of moving. It's all about access to the water. And over there between 55th and Martin Luther King, it is my idea to bring the folks to the water and to have the ability to move shift the Memorial Freeway, and then allow for us to have more access to the water. The yacht clubs have more access to the water than average citizens do. And so the ability for us to shift Memorial Freeway, because now that is opened up because of the First Energy plant, is gone. And the ability for us to put more citizens to the water is an idea that I think is doable, but it would require a lot of effort and partnerships. But that is the one idea that I'm looking forward to being able to develop and make happen.
Mr. Brewer?
I would have expected the councilman to talk about the Port Authority since it's under the city of Cleveland's control, but I will. The Port Authority is the place where we deal with commerce from the various companies that ship into this area. We're part of the St. Lawrence Seaway. When I was East Cleveland's mayor, we had discussions about opening up that Noble Road dump property to turn it into a duty-free zone. Benvenue, for example, in Bedford, that's now gone, was a duty-free zone owned by the Germans. We would be looking at, in my mind, these types of opportunities that the Port Authority already has the power to do, to bring in more ships, more products from different parts of the world into this area and making it a huge transportation center that includes more jobs for longshoremen and people that are moving those goods back and forth. The other thing that I would take a look at, since we have Edgewater Park, is making sure that it is pristine, making sure that all of the equipment over there is functioning, making sure that it has all of the state-of-the-art assets to make it an enjoyable experience for the people who do use that facility or that park space. But I'm not going to turn over the lake to a bunch of developers to build houses for rich people so that only they have access to beachfront property, as I heard from some of the developers.
Thank you. Mr. Bell.
Well, in order to spur and sustain economic growth at a fast enough pace, keep unemployment low, I plan to capitalize on Cleveland's biggest asset, Lake Erie, which is the world's largest concentration, the Great Lakes, of fresh water in the world. The continued development of waterfront property is a must, as long as it is done in a way that does not create further racial and class division. The economic benefits of capitalizing on the lakefront, housing, and recreation opportunities will benefit the entire community. Maintaining a fun and attractive lakefront will enhance the quality of life for people of all walks of life in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you.
Now we're going to go back to sort of rapid fire questions, 3 different questions, somewhat related. I'm not all of you answering them all, but there's a bit of a theme here in my way of looking at it. It's basically, the theme is working with other entities that mayors have to confront. Starting out with, how would you work with other mayors in the region to make sure that corporations actually bring jobs back to the region? Mr. Brewer.
Well, as a former member of the Mayors and City Managers Association who attended the meetings unlike the current mayor does, I would certainly work with the other mayors to ensure that we have full discussions about development opportunities that are taking place. I think that the thing that we have to focus on is the non-poaching, because there's a lot of competition between cities for businesses. And what you can't do, this is what I had to sign with Frank Jackson in the city of Cleveland when we entered a direct service agreement so that Cleveland could provide East Cleveland with its water, is we signed a no poaching agreement. You have businesses that are constantly competing for these businesses, cities that are constantly competing for businesses to come in and provide jobs and tax dollars, and they're taking from each other. Now, I don't think it's right, for example, that Cleveland should have to lose to East Cleveland or East Cleveland to Cleveland because Cleveland has a bigger budget and is able to offer more in ways that we may not be able to in a smaller city. So those disadvantages, I think, have to be discussed so that we have more of a fair and open environment between the mayors, so that we understand that as each community goes, our fate as a county goes.
Mr. Johnson.
It's important that we have regional cooperation, and one of the main things that I think the next Cleveland mayor has to do is be an active, physical, visible mayor of the region as well as across the state. I don't think Mayor Jackson does that at all. I think he sends his surrogates into too many situations. I think by working with the local mayors, we can do things that actually benefit Clevelanders, such as opening up public transportation, making sure that that the suburbs that surround us do not do things to block access, and you have to be able to work with them with mutual needs. They also want to be able to have a water system that we manage, that is reliable and that they can count on. We know that our water department right now has fallen short, and that is one of the biggest failures of the Jackson administration, and suburbs are concerned about that. You have to be able to communicate with them. We also want to be able to deal with issues of affordable housing, dealing with access to their assets, and being able to work with them. But you have to be there you have to be there on your own. You have to really be the chief advocate for the central city, so that they understand, they being the suburbs, that they understand however we go, they are impacted by it. And there are some suburban cities that are struggling just like Cleveland, such as East Cleveland, and other parts of some other suburbs that we have to be supportive of.
Mr. Patton?
Back some years ago, we actually had a no poaching agreement in Cleveland. And the question became, did they come to you or did you go to them? Of course they never come to a suburb. I mean, the suburbs would never do that. So you end up with situations like we have at Randall Park, 2,000 jobs, Amazon, we didn't get a shot, not even a holler. Those are important things that you have to have cooperative agreements. In Seattle, Washington, visited many years ago, their transportation system and the city economic development work hand in hand to create nodes of transportation to nodes of development. There's been years here that we've suffered where there were jobs down 71, but no bus went to those jobs. So it is important that we reignite those conversations and share the wealth, and there ought to be some penalty. And the county needs to be held accountable along with the county council to make that happen, because we all one county.
Switching now